People should stop complaining about the cheap nature of the interior of these cars, because they were designed that way to be cheap, so people could actually afford them. And they did. They bought a ton of them. Say it with me, for we walk by faith, not by sight. Hey guys, welcome to Cheap Old Cars and Audio. My name's John. Here's a Mustang, right? It's an old Mustang. I keep seeing stuff about these, and this isn't to any certain comments or anything I've had like that. Nothing like that. But I keep watching other people's reviews of them and other cars, and just seeing how people are doing car reviews to try to make my videos a little bit different, a little better. Maybe I shouldn't scratch at my eye in the middle of a video. There's something in my eye. It hurts like crazy. My whole right eye is just hurting. I don't know. Anyway, I keep seeing these videos that people are posting about how horrible some of these cars are. People will always give the Terminator a pass because it's quick in a straight line. I think people really need to get over the straight line thing being like the be-all end-all of stuff. But let's look at the interiors of these cars, because that's what this one's about. It's about these junk, crappy, plastic, hard plastic, horrible interiors these cars have, and why they're not actually any of those things. So this is the door panel of our Mach 1. I typically keep a microfiber around for cleaning my glasses or cleaning camera lenses or something. So there's a microfiber. The buttons have worn off for the windows. You know, car's 21 years old, whatever. Interior's fine. You know, the glue is coming loose a little bit here. The door panel's still in great shape. You know, the glue coming loose a little bit right in here and this corner pulling out a little bit doesn't impact anything. So let's look at the seats, because the seats are a problem, yeah? You can see the bolsters are wore out. And on a lot of these Bullets, Mach 1s, and Cobras, the bolsters got wore out by 50,000 miles. I've got another set of leather for this car already, so that's not a big deal. If the foam had been firmer, they might have lasted a little bit longer. However, just getting in and out over big bolsters, you're going to wear them out. That's what happens. So I'm going to give these cars a little bit of a pass, especially since this is a New Mexico car, and it's got 89,000 miles on it. And yeah, it's got some more splits and stuff than my other seats, but it had not the easiest life. Again, also New Mexico car, right? I know this car sat outside most of its life because the whole thing had been super, super faded. I just locked the steering wheel. And it needed to be repainted. Guys, is this an interior of a car that sat outside for 20 years and the whole car was so faded that like metal was showing in places and it had to be completely repainted? This is nice. And guess what? That's hard plastic. Guess who doesn't care? Yeah, me. I don't care. And I'll tell you why I don't care here in just a minute when we get to kind of the main car we're going to look at in this. Like, this is fine. I don't understand what the problem is. Let's step out here and look at my Bullet. Man, goodness. It might only be 82 or 83 today, but the humidity is painful. Floor's a little dirty. I've been driving this one a lot lately. So I've got my Momo steering wheel, and I've got my Corbeau seats. I'm a Corbeau ambassador, so yeah, click the link in my thing and buy some seats. And I do like how these seats hold me in place better, right? I like the Bullet seats too. They were good seats. The bolstering on them was a little soft, and this is definitely firmer. And these thigh bolsters too really hold me in place. I like my little micro suede, or it's not suede, it's faux suede, micro Alcantara, whatever, I don't know. My steering wheel, it's nice. It's going to get dirty and be hard to clean. I'm probably going to replace it with a leather one. And I think a lot of the people that think these interiors are junky are young people, okay? And maybe they're older people that are just spoiled, right? I don't know. But this is fine. This is 24 years old. Guys, I need you to understand something. I'm going to flip this around. When I was 17, I bought a 1977 Trans Am. If I remember correctly, it was, I think it was 27 years old. Yeah, it was 28. It was 28 years old. That was a crappy interior, okay? I had to repaint and or replace everything. You understand? Everything, right? The console had to be redone. Yeah, I'm going to close this one up here. The console had to be redone. The dash had to be redone. The door panels had to be completely replaced. The vinyl seats had to be completely replaced. I was only able to keep the frames. The rear package tray had completely crumbled. The plastics on the inside, even though the car had tint and had rear window louvers, the plastics on the inside were flaking and coming apart. Okay. And it was, the car still ran. It still drove, right? It had been parked for a while, but this was a 28-year-old car. And I've got a car sitting here, they're 24, a few years newer. They're fine. They're fine. I don't understand what the problem is with why they're cheap and junky and everything. Now I do get soft touch leather dashes and wood trim and blah, all that crap. I have thoughts. I have thoughts on that I'm going to talk to you about when we get inside the V6 Mustang. So let's walk over here and look at how amazing the interior of a V6 Mustang is from the New Edge era. Look at this interior. Oh my goodness. Let's look at the seat down here. Bolster's a little worn, not too bad. That seat over there is like perfect. The rear seats are, let me move the camera the right way here. The rear seats are perfect. Everything's in great shape. There's no cracks, there's no issues, there's no nothing. Let's sit down in here and let's talk about how horrible this interior is. I do know that you see a lot of these cars in videos and like slats in the vents are missing and stuff, and that one over there be broke out. And yeah, that looks crappy, but things happen to cars and you can fix them, right? So I'm looking around this car and like it's completely and perfectly fine. The dash is hard plastic. So what? How does that impact anything? And then the answer is it doesn't. And so a lot of people, I think a lot of the car community is focused on the wrong things. I do think people are way too focused on straight line performance. I don't see it as that important. You get to a certain point where on the street, it's not really that usable anymore. And beyond that, it's cool that you got the power, I guess. I like a balanced car better, like a really well balanced blend of performance and braking and handling and all the things, which is actually why I really like my Bullitt with the deeper gears, because the 327s were too tall for those things, but 355s, 373s, or even if you want to do 410s, which that car has, which I think is a bit much, that's a great car. Okay. Lower center of gravity than most of the others, stiffer springs, stiff shocks on it too. So the Mach 1 and the Bullitt had the same spring rates, but the Mach 1 had softer shocks. You can change that obviously, but you're still going to have the center of gravity issue. And if you're into corners, you're going to feel it. Back to the interiors. Okay. Back to the interiors. I'm going to talk about BMWs for a second. Okay. And Mercedes, honestly, both of them. And a lot of people might not like what I have to say here, but you're giving these companies a huge pass, because you get in the car and nice supple leather seats and a leather wrapped dash that has pretty stitching, and the console is, a soft touch or whatever. And maybe it's got some foam and leather over it, or foam and vinyl or something. And then there's faux wood trim around, and oh, it's just this wonderful place to be, and it's so great and all these things. Well, one, that just makes the car more expensive. I got 2 points here to make. The first one is you're giving BMW and Mercedes and some of these other companies, you're giving them this huge pass when their mechanics of the car are just not mechanic people. The mechanical bits of the car are kind of garbage and don't really last that long. Okay, cool. Like they feel great through these corners for 50,000 miles. Then you got to replace everything, right? Plastic coolant systems that blow up at 100,000 miles. And you can say all you want about all this stuff, but I mean, look at any old BMW that's not an M model. It has no value at all. They're garbage because mechanically they are almost mechanically totaled at 150,000 miles. Not all of them, a lot of them. Okay. Overcomplicated systems, all this stuff. Here's the second point. Okay. And this all ties together. The cheapness of these interiors and the simpleness of these cars is a feature. It's not a bug. It's not a problem with these cars. It's actually something that should be celebrated. Okay. Let me explain why it should be celebrated. I'm sitting in a V6 right now. I'm sitting in a 2002 V6 Premium Auto. That's about it. Right. It has the little mat pocket up here. It's got air conditioning. It's got, I don't know. It doesn't really have many options. It's auto and leather. Okay. This car is absolutely great. for a very pragmatic reason. Without a ton of these cheap V6 Mustangs selling, that Bullitt over there and that Mach 1 right up there in the garage, they would not be near as affordable as they were, okay? And the 0304 Cobras, the Terminator, the vaunted Terminator that's really awesome and amazing and all these things. I've ridden in one. I've never driven one. I've ridden in one quite a bit, okay? Straight line, it's great. They still have the high center of gravity thing with the turning. And yes, you can do a lot of stuff to the suspension to make them handle pretty good, and the IRS is better in bumpy corners. Now, I'm not going to say the IRS is better because you can do enough mods to a solid rear axle Mustang to get them to handle really, really well on a smooth surface. The IRS is good for the bumpy corners. Yeah, sure, I get that. Okay. And I personally think the Bullitt is the best balanced of all these cars with deeper gears. So, I mean, I haven't ever done this. Finally got that gunk out of my right eye is bothering me. It has been bothering me. It's hurting all day. I honestly think if I took a stock 2001 Bullitt and put an IRS in it with 355s, that would be my absolute favorite Mustang. Okay? Because there are bumpy corners around here, so the IRS could help. The 355s would help a ton because the 327s are a little too tall. I think that would be about perfect. Now, I do like some different springs better. I really like the H&R Sport and H&R Super Sport springs. I like the progressive spring rates and all that stuff. I'm kind of getting off topic here. Let's get back to the interiors. I'm sorry. I do that. It all still kind of ties in, though. You know, I was talking about the Cobra. The Terminator Cobra, people go, oh, but it's got this old cheap interior. And everybody has to go, well, that's just how they did it in the early 2000s. That's just kind of what it was. And you deal with this to have this amazing engine. Are y'all that picky? Is it that bad? Like, I'm sitting in this car. This car's 23 years old. There's not a single crack in anything. It's in great shape. And who cares if it's a little hard plastic? It's there. It's not falling apart. It's fine. I guess I'm just not picky. Like, this is perfectly fine to me. And I'm honestly happy when I see this interior because I like the double hump, kind of calling back to the old cars. Let me turn this around so you can see. If I turn this off and then turn this around. You know, it's got this kind of hump in the dash here, and then it's got this one over here, and that kind of harkens back to the double hump thing of the old Mustangs from back in the day. I like it. It doesn't bother me at all. Because I know I'm a very pragmatic person, and that not everyone is a pragmatic person. And also by trade, I'm like a pricing and costing analyst. And so I see things from a very cut and dry pragmatic point of view. When I look at this interior, I see the cost savings that allowed that Bullitt to be like 28, 29, that Mach 1 to be like, let me take that back. The Bullitt to be like 26, 27, the Mach 1 to be like 29, and the Cobras at the time were like 32, 33. Okay, I see how they got there because they used a standard interior in all of them with shared switchgear and shared radios and shared parts to a lot of other stuff. The parts bin thing is great. I love Corvettes too, right? Okay, because when you get in the Corvette, you're like, hey, that's the same radio as this other car. That's the same HVAC control as my Tahoe or whatever. That is a benefit. Those parts are going to work because they've been tested and they've been run in so many vehicles, and you're going to be able to get replacements for this stuff. Guys, the cheap junk crap that they made millions of and they're still on the road 20-something years later in great shape as my cars are, that's actually the good stuff. Okay? You're missing that. It's the good stuff. The leather, super soft, all the nice things and stuff, and those cars that are not on the road 15 or 10, even 10 years from now, right? Because they're mechanically total and you can't get the parts because they were rare to begin with. That's the junk. That's the crap. You guys, I think, have bought in. I'm not saying any one of you specifically, but a lot of people have bought into this whole thing of you have to have the nicest, the latest and greatest. You have to have the one that does, 100th of a G more on the skid pad than the previous year model. You have to have the one with 405 horsepower instead of last year's 400 horsepower. You don't, right? You don't have to have any of that crap. It's better to not have a payment and have something that performs for 20 years as it was designed to do. And this car's honestly another 10 years, when they're 30. I'm sure there's going to be things I have to fix, but it's not going to be that much. I promise you it's not going to be that much. These are great cars. And if you look at them and you go, they're not quick in a straight line. Okay. Mod it. It doesn't corner well. Okay, mod it. The parts are there. Guess what? When you mod it, they're still going to be great. Now, you go boosting stuff and overdoing it, you're going to blow up your engine, sure. But I put Maximum Motorsports parts on this Blue Bullet over here. In another 20 years, those parts are still going to be on there, working just fine. And I know this because I see cars that had Maximum Motorsports parts put on them in the early 2000s, and they're still just fine to this day. Right? I'm telling you guys, these cheap old cars from the early 2000s are probably going to be some of the best cars ever made. That's why there's an 05 Escalade sitting behind me, and I got an 04 Silverado over there. This newer stuff with all these extra things and soft this and supple that and electronics out the wazoo, ride height sensors and all this stuff. All of that stuff is eventually going to fail. And I'm still going to be cruising around in my old Mustangs, happy as I can be, because I haven't bought in. Like, I get consumerism and I get capitalism. I'm all about capitalism, okay? I get it. You don't have to buy the latest and greatest to actually be cool. Your car doesn't mean anything about who you are. Who you are is who you are. And I think this is another thing too. I think a lot of people try to impress others with their car, keeping up with the Joneses and all that stuff. I am not that guy. I am not that guy at all. I like having my stuff nice, and I like keeping my house nice and all of these things. But guys, I'm telling you, the cheapness of these cars and the junkiness of these cars is a benefit and a feature that you don't see much anymore of. And it's the reason a lot of these new cars are insanely expensive, okay? And even used, oh my gosh, right? Like, the first Mustang GT I bought was a 2001 black 10 interior 5-speed, okay? Had 98 or 99,000 miles on it. I bought that car had it for a few years. I bought it in 2011 or 2012. It was 10 years old, okay? Okay, so I bought a 10-year-old Mustang GT for like, I think I paid $6,000 or $6,500 or something. If I look at a 10-year-old Mustang GT right now, they're like $20-something thousand. Now, I get there's inflation, and I also get that if I look at the percent decrease of the original price of that GT to the price I bought it, and the percent decrease of the original price of the 2015 GT to the original price, the percent decrease to what it was or what they are cost now, it's probably a similar percentage. But man, our wages didn't go up that much, and these cars are just insanely expensive. And I get in them and I look around and I'm like, no, this crap's gonna work in 10 years. I got screens across the dash. I got buttons galore and everywhere, and there's cameras and all this that hooks up to the internet. None of this crap is going to work in 10 more years if I'm already looking at a 10-year-old car. Now, I could be proven wrong, but I know for a fact right now that my 20-something-year-old Mustangs might not be as quick as the current ones. They might not handle as well. Their skid pad numbers aren't as high, okay? I love the way the Bullet drives. And I've driven quite a few other things. I'm not going to say a lot of other things. I've driven quite a few other things. The best handling car. I mean, I don't want to say handling because this car actually does handle really well. But the best handling car I've ever driven is a Lotus Elise, and I've driven one in anger, right? So I know what a good handling car should feel like. I still like driving my Bullet, and maybe that's just the pragmatist in me who likes things that are logical and make sense and stuff. They're good cars. They're good. I'm sorry, they are. If you don't think they are, I guess enjoy your little lights on the bottom of your mirror that put little horses on the road or whatever, because that's just added weight and complexity and extra crap you don't need. Anyway, that's why I like the interiors of these cars, and that's why I think people should stop complaining about the cheap nature of the plastic of the interior of these cars, because they were designed that way to be cheap, so people could actually afford them. And they did. They bought a ton of them. And guess what? 20-something years later, as long as you mildly take care of them, they're still in great shape. I think they're fine. Thank you for watching. Please like and subscribe if you enjoyed this. I'll be talking about more car stuff. A lot of it will be kind of working on this one here and doing other things to the guys out there. So thank you for watching, guys.